Good afternoon. Welcome to the City of Madeira Beach. This is our special meeting we're going to have today at 1:30. And could I get the city clerk to take the roll, please?
Mayor Black, Vice Mayor Hodges,
Here.
Commissioner Weinstein,
Here.
Commissioner Andrews,
Here.
Commissioner Douther. Let the record show that Mayor Black and Commissioner Douther is not present at the meeting.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment. Do we have anyone here for public comment this afternoon? Okay, I'm closing public comment. The next item on the agenda is the agenda item topics. It's on the project 203-80, award RFP and contract for the Crystal Island Roadway improvement projects. And I believe it's Mr. Ahrens? Ahrens, okay.
Good afternoon, Vice Mayor and Commissioners. This item is being brought before the Commission during a special meeting due to the desire to commence construction as soon as possible on the Crystal Island Roadway and stormwater improvement projects. The project was publicly advertised in October, and 2 bids were received from qualified contractors on January 23rd. The bids were from Gibbs and Register with a low bid of $12,624,889.70, and the Crisdell Group with a total bid of $16,344,319. The bid committee has reviewed both bids and recommends the approval of the low bid from Gibbs and Register. City staff agrees with the bid committee's recommendation. In addition to the roadway and stormwater improvement, the project also includes utility upgrades such as fire hydrants, water services, and replacement of sanitary sewer force mains, completed under a joint project agreement with Pinellas County. Under this agreement, the county will reimburse the city for utility work in the amount of up to $2,068,050. The city's estimated base bid is $9,597,127 with a 10% contingency for a total estimated base bid of $10,556,839.70. The city's portion of the funds will be coming out of the stormwater drainage account, and the project is expected to be completed in 365 days from notice to proceed. I'm here with Al Carrier with Deuel Associates and Chuck Dillon, who is part of the Roadway Construction Committee, if you have any questions. Thank you.
I have just one question. On our regular agenda that we have tonight, the last item on the agenda is regarding the road project. Is this going to eliminate that from our agenda now?
No, ma'am, it will not. It's a different service.
Okay.
I've got a couple questions. What do we have budgeted for this project? Jamie, I'm not picking on you. I know you weren't here when this all kind of came down and it all got started. But what exactly do we have budgeted for this project? I remember it being roughly $6.6 million. Anybody have the answer? Okay, walk on.
Vice Mayor and Commissioners, the budget that we have for in 2020, just to get started in this project, which is coming from the $15 million that we received in a loan, is $7,834,000. We created a separate account for your information, which is object code 6320, which is specifically earmarked for this for these 3 projects that are tied for this $15 million loan.
Okay, well, so if we're spending $10 million and change on this, how are we going to have enough money to do? And we missed our target by over $3 million. We're not going to have enough money to do the other 2 projects.
So the 7.5 is, I believe, the number that you're referring to as first number that was originally.
Well, I think it was actually a little less than that. Like I said, my point would be that our initial budget was around 18 million, and then we added 6 on top of it. So our total budget for the city's around 24. So, you know, we made commitments to other people in the city that this $15 million that we got too early, but this $15 million that we got was going to, and the reason their millage rate was going up was, hey, don't worry about it, this money's going to be able to take care of all the projects. Now I've got to turn around and go back to my constituents and say, okay, well, we're going to run out of dough on this, so we're going to have to raise your millage rate again in order to get there. Plus, we have a balloon payment on this coming due at some point along the line there. I guess, how were we, I don't know who answers this question, but why are we 3 million and change off? And I'm not even counting the Pinellas County portion of this. And are there any grants that have been looked at, and why haven't we looked at them from the get-go? I'm flustered on this, guys. I mean, I've got a tough time, especially with a mayor and another commissioner not here, making a recommendation to approve this, if we're going to basically deplete that fund and we can't do any other projects. So I hope somebody has an answer for that, because I'm kind of shocked by looking at this, to be honest with you.
Commissioner, I wasn't here when the calculations were done, but we have done something about it. We asked the legislature for an appropriation for the Crystal Island project in the form of $2.5 million. The update that I got this week on it is they're hoping to have the final budget numbers out for each one of the committees. This falls under the Transportation Committee, and it is on their agenda, and we'll know if they're recommending the funding amount that we requested, hopefully towards the end of the week, is what I'm being told by the lobbyist. So the Swift Mud funding that we traditionally had received in the past didn't qualify with Crystal Island because of the water table issues. And that also is part of the rationale for why the contractors charge so much for their work, because of the different types of pipe that they might have to use. But until they get in there and do the work, they're not aware of it. There's a plastic pipe that they normally use, and then there's what they call, it's got an acronym, but it's basically concrete pipe. So the concrete pipe's a lot heavier. It's not as easy to work with, but if it's a heavy water situation, and correct me if I'm wrong, Al, they'll utilize the concrete pipe. Al, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, a couple things. The original contract, or the original budget number, was estimated about a year ago, and when we were looking at the estimate, we had limited information. We didn't have any geotechnical information. We went with the estimate based on basically a per linear price of current projects that were completed within the last 6 months at that time. There were a couple items that we had added during the process of developing the construction plans. For instance, on Flamingo, that's a little bit of a causeway there. There's 3 portions of Flamingo that we're adding seawall to. That's an additional $400,000. And then we made the decision to replace the box culverts on Flamingo also, which is about another $245,000. In addition, once we got the geotech report back, we realized that the site wasn't conducive for percolation, so we wouldn't be putting in the pervious concrete. We also realized that the groundwater table is very high out there, and I believe that's driving up the price too. And that's reflected in the price of the culverts we got back from the contractors. Typically, they would, in that line item price, they would add their fees for dewatering, because they have to put the pipes in the dry. So they have to dewater the site, put the pipes in, get compaction, and that's another reason that's driving the price up higher than the 7.5 original.
Yeah, no, I know things happen, and I know that we did this bid a while back. I don't know if it's a year ago, but we did the bid a while back. My point is, we got rushed through this process. I mean, we were told by oh, we got to get this done, we got to get this done. And then we were told, oh, well, these are historic low interest rates, and we got to, and then the Fed lowers interest rates. So we went and we rushed through this process, and all this information you're giving me is terrific. Why didn't we know about this prior to first putting together a proposal so that we knew how much we had to spend, and then going out and seeking the money in order to pay for this? I mean, this is like the Keystone Cops. We're running in different directions here, and all of a sudden, now we're faced, now you're putting a decision on my plate here, and for the rest of the commissioners as well, to say, hey, okay, we messed up. We thought it was going to be $7.5 million. We already got money sitting in the bank, which, like I said, what are we about halfway through that before that balloon payment hits? So there's another $500,000. And now you're asking that we push away other projects in order to fund Crystal Island, and then we're not going to have money left for these other projects. I got to be honest with you, I'm having a real tough time with this. I think, I think at some point somebody owes an explanation on why this was rushed through. Why didn't we take our time, do our due diligence, do our homework, come up with accurate or as close to accurate assumptive pricing, and then go out and borrow money? But now we're sitting here, and I'm listening to, and I read in the paper this week that we're in great financial position. Well, if this $3.5 million leaves, that we're not going to be in great financial position anymore. Now, are we? Okay. So I think we need to kind of reel it in here and kind of do a little more due diligence before we start taking out enormous loans without any kind of inkling on how much these things are going to cost.
Vice Mayor and Commissioners, I want to make it clear too, we are in great financial position. And as we go into next year, some of our loans, of our old debt will be paid off. The fire truck loan was paid off just recently, and the 2018 bond will be paid off next year as well. The stormwater project that we originally got is also years away from being paid off. So as we pay off the old debt, and we did kind of assume this would probably happen as an option of flexibility when we did borrow this money. So as these loans get paid off, this money will be freed up to be paid from the general fund to the stormwater to cover any unexpected expenses.
Well, so then please answer this question that I got posed to me 5 times this week. If we're in such great financial position, why did we have to raise the millage rate 25%?
We raised the millage rate basically to plan on this project to get this money so the money would be available, and we took advantage of the low interest rates. Interest rates have fluctuated, even gone up high, so we took advantage of it. Well, in my opinion, it was a great time to do it. I still think it was a good time to do it, and never know what can happen tomorrow, but we have the money available, and basically we have this money available, and if you offset the interest earned versus the interest expense, we have the use of this money for basically 15 months. So if that wasn't the case, I could understand where there would be an issue of the timing, but there's not. We are not incurring any hardship about this money. When the Crystal Island folks packed this room and wanted this obligation, they wanted the money, they wanted to see the money because they had doubts that the money was not earmarked properly in the past, and there was not full disclosure. We proved to them that we could get this money, it would be earmarked. We indicated to them that it would be in a separate account, and that's what we did.
May I make a comment?
Yeah, I just have one more comment, though. Crystal Island isn't our only citizens in this town. So just because they packed a room here doesn't mean that we had to give them preferential rights over everything. I still want to do every project I want to do, okay? But what I'm saying, and now we're backtracking, and I can't believe you just stood up there and said you'd do it again at the same prices. Interest rates are lower today than they were when you got the loan, Walt, and you rushed us through the process without having any idea how much this project was going to cost. And if you felt pressure from the Crystal Island people, you should have came to us.
Vice Mayor and Commissioners, I didn't rush anybody through this process. We wanted to budget for this money, to put it into our CIP, to plan for it. And if we didn't budget it for it, these professionals right here would not have completed the study. We've already paid our carrier money from this loan. And if we hadn't budgeted this money and planned for it, these professionals wouldn't be at this point where they are right now. So yes, we had to do it, and we had to do it when we did do it.
May I make a comment? Yes, I would like to just ask Commissioner Andrews, I think that you just said that we raised the millage 25%. We raised it by less than a mill.
2.2 to 2.75 is 0.55 against 2.2 is how much? 25%.
Well, I'd
That was
still
my
say
comment.
that we're still the.
That was my comment, and I'm going to stick to that. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'd just like to move on a little bit from there. First of all, when we first started talking about this back in February of 2019, yes, the amount, the loan, certainly I did not think, even at that time, that $15 million seriously was going to cover the three projects. I knew it was going to be a beginning, and I think that's the way it was phased, that it was going to be the beginning. I think it's very clear that and if you've gone to all the meetings, that the increase in the millage, we wanted to make sure that it gave us the wiggle room, I guess you would say, to make sure that we would not have to raise the millage again in 3 or 4 years or in whatever. I'm thinking that, and I am a firm believer and I firmly supported this project. I think we haven't done it since the city was formed in 1947, and I think it was time to do it. And I think that everybody passed the buck, and this commission is where the buck stopped, and we move on from here. I don't think at any time that anybody knew when, I think his name is Nick Rakoa, when he proposed the loan agreements, and yes, I think it was a wonderful rate. I think that we really, by going when we did, we have, not that it's going to happen for more than 1 year, but by getting the loan when we did, and by getting the interest rate versus the interest that we had to pay on that loan, we still come out in the good. I think that I'm ready to move forward, because I think that if you start a project like this, you're fully committed. I think that the other commissioners, I think that all of us were fully committed, knowing that nothing, that you're constantly behind the 8 ball and you never get anything accomplished if you say, well, let's start with 15 million and go as far as that'll go and then stop. You've got to keep going on. We're a city moving forward. We've got to supply and we've got to provide the infrastructure for our residents, for our tourists, for our businesses, and that's just the way it is. So I'm perfectly comfortable in the figures and in the reports that the finance department has given to us. I'm disappointed too that the bid review committee didn't come in lower. Wouldn't that have been wonderful? But God knows who's going to ever ask for anything like that. So I think we're on the right track. I think the city's on the right track.
Commissioner, I do have a question for you. You knew that the price of this project was going to be over $7.5 million?
I didn't know, but I assumed that it probably would be, because nothing is ever as good as it says it's going to be.
Well, correct. So my point is, okay, and what I've been trying to say, and maybe you're not listening, but my point is I am 1,000% behind doing these projects, okay? But the money doesn't grow on a tree for us. We are going to run out of money after this project is over and we start another project. We've made promises to our constituents that these projects were all going to be encompassed by the $15 million, and we were basing it on the fact that the first project was going to be cost between $6.5 and $7.5 million. Okay? That's my point. I don't know why you're putting words in my mouth saying, I don't care about this and I don't want to move forward. I ran on this. Okay? I'm just saying that I think we got rushed through the process. Okay? We got rushed through. We didn't do all our homework. We didn't do all our due diligence. All these points, and Al's perfectly correct on this. All of these points that Al's making should have been discovered way before we borrowed dime one, so that we knew what we were looking at going in, so that we wouldn't have to go back to our constituents now and tell them, well, we're going to run out of money. We're not going to get to your project, so we're going to have to raise the millage rate again. Because unless, of course, we're going to jack parking up to $33 an hour, we haven't come up with any new revenue sources in the past 3 years. So that's my point, Commissioner, and please don't put words in my mouth. I support the project 100%. I think that we should do all the roads in town. We should have borrowed $100 million. If Walt says it's for free money for 15 months, we could have done the whole damn town. Okay? That's my point. And please don't take anything that I said out of context. That's my point. I'm 100% behind the project. I think the process stunk.
Can I ask just one question? I'm not sure who to ask, but the forklift bid that we have down on Flamingo, is this where the problem is, or is it on the bridge?
Can you repeat the question?
The question that everyone's talking about, is it on the bridge itself, the problem, or is it only on Flamingo, the problem that we have?
Are you discussing the force main?
I'm sorry?
The force main?
Whatever the problem is, I know there's a pipe that's running irregular. And is that the one that's under the bridge, or is this down on Flamingo?
So there's a force main, a sanitary sewer force main, 6-inch force main that pumps sewage from the lift station that's located on Flamingo. And the pipe goes out Flamingo, up Crystal, and over Island Drive and dumps into a sanitary sewer manhole there. That is a portion of the project that's being paid for by Pinellas County Utilities. It's part of the JPA. They had discovered that kind of late in the game, and that's what forced us to delay the bid opening, the last bid opening, about a month. But that's one issue. Pinellas County is also replacing all the water meters out on the entire island. They're going to telemetry. There's other issues regarding the city's responsibility with the storm sewer. Most of the stormwater pipes that are in the ground were all constructed back in the early 50s. They've seen their useful life. There's a number of outfalls that the city over the past decade have gone and done what we call point repairs, kind of dig a hole over the pipe where it's collapsed or broken and fix it and kind of repaired it to Band-Aid it along. So those are some of the issues, as well as the condition of the roadway, especially on Crystal and portions of Lillian, where it's just completely deteriorated and it needs to be replaced.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, if I may, I know there's a challenge here, and obviously you heard about the condition of the roadway that, we have to do something with, Crystal Island. There's no doubt about it. I was really surprised at the amount of money that was being charged on the bids, but my challenge is to make sure that we move forward with the other projects as well. And I'll be looking for other opportunities, just like the one that we had with dealing with our legislature this year. Hopefully that'll be successful, and that'll limit the exposure that we have. But again, we don't know until the governor finally signs, even if it makes it through the committee and it gets voted on and everything else, the governor has a right of a line item veto. My understanding is that he's supportive of the project, so hopefully that won't occur. But either way, it's my job and my challenge that I have to deal with to try to come up with funding sources in the future so we can do all of the 3 projects and also the additional projects that we have to do. And I don't want to do that on the backs of the taxpayer. I want to do that through other funding opportunities that we can gather and savings that we might have in our own debt structure. So, short of, letting you know anything else, I was, obviously this bothered me as much as it bothered each of you, but it's something that was not within our control. Now, the timing and everything else, I have to turn that to other individuals that were here at that time. So I can't answer those questions, but the bottom line is I agree we need to get the project done, and having your full support of the commission is paramount.
Do you know whether or not the residents on Crystal Island are going to be coming in for a meeting on this? Are we going to talk about it again with them like we did originally?
There's been communications with a number of the residents while we've gotten up to this point, one-on-one meetings, both with Al Carrier and with Jamie, our Public Works Director. The bottom line is we're now to a stage where we want to start construction. You know, the communication, the talking, you know, we just need to get this job done. It's going to take a full year to do. We're going to go through a lot of efforts to try to minimize the inconvenience to the residents that are there. But, you know, I know we don't have a full commission here too as well. So if you all want to wait and, you know, we can discuss this at the meeting in February or call another special meeting. But I just, my feeling is if I don't get the endorsement of all three of you, then that would probably be my preference.
Do you know if any of this has been passed through for bond, money coming in from the state?
Other than the update the city manager gave, that's all the only information that I have about the 2.5 million in the House now.
Did you need to say anything?
No, I'm prepared to, you know.
Okay. Do we have time for public comment? Sure.
Robert Preston, 425 South Bayshore Drive, Madeira Beach. Might as well start this off. Totally surprised in the price. So a couple comments that I would like to make. And this one is on Mr. Pierce. This is the very first time I heard anybody say that it was 6 to 7 million to start. That has never, ever been said before. And that we're going to pay off other debts so we can make these payments. That wasn't said either. Mr. Pierce is blowing smoke and mirrors. It's not good. The other thing I have is we talk about the professionals. If the professionals come in $2.5 million under the bids, there's something wrong. There's truly something wrong. They didn't do their job. Geotech. Oh, geez, we didn't have geotech. Well, that was part of their job. You should have done that out. Not come up later and say, well, geez, we did a geotech and now it's this. That's wrong. And as history tells us anything, this project, looking at our other projects, is going to run 30 to 40% over budget. That's $2.3 million if we put it at 35%. Look at our other projects. Look what they were overrun. Do you remember those? Huge amounts, percentage-wise. And the city just did it again. I don't get it. I know it's an election year, but the city is not moving forward. I wished it was, but it's not. Everything that this council has done, or this commission has done, is to restrict, remove, build up walls for projects that can bring the city revenue. Nobody's talking about where we're going to get this revenue. It's going to come out of the citizens' pockets. You're going to have to raise taxes again if you want to do all this other stuff. Grants, we get grants before projects start. We don't get grants after project starts. They're going to say, what, you already did the damn project. Sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, Commissioners. Chuck Dillon. I'm on the Road Committee. And basically, to answer a lot of your questions, Doug, if you had a house, you knew you got to replace the roof. You guesstimate it's going to be $5,000. They get up, they start doing the work. What happens? The gutters are bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. They say, okay, it's now going to cost you $5,500. That's basically what the process is. When they started this process, I started this because I live on Crystal Island. I was concerned, and I know construction, I know road building. That's why I volunteered for this committee. Things are not great, perfectly black and white. Things change. This is why I also got involved with this with contingency. There's $1 million contingency thing on here. I'm going to try to make sure that there is no overruns. They are building these streets very well. They're building these streets, I feel, better than some of the other ones. Those streets have not been maintained or looked at for years and years. The $15 million, I could be wrong, but I believe the millage rate was based on the $15 million, and getting money in hand is very good. I mean, you know, we were paying interest, but not that much. But to be able to have the money in hand, going out for bids, and you got 2 qualified bids, maybe. I mean, you know, if we don't accept this at this point, the prices are going to go up. And this person, I said at the bid opening, and he choked that he left $4 million on the table. So from a contractor standpoint, yeah, it was just like, oh my God, what'd I do? So I'm volunteering my time because I know road construction, I know that stuff. I have been working with Al and Jamie and Bob all along here trying to get as much as we can for this $15 million. Granted, 7.5 to 5.5 was higher, but as he said, there were a lot more things that got added into the bid when they did their first estimate. And also, and then what happened is, if we throw it out, it's going to go back and it's going to go back up higher, I believe. But we've got the money in hand. We're going to work forward, moving on to the other projects. And with Crystal Island being done, we've got Bogosiega done. This $15 million, I'm looking to see about trying to make sure we get at least 90% of our streets new. And that's what I've basically volunteered for. So hopefully that kind of maybe gave you a little bit of an idea. And for other people, as far as the money, it's well spent. You cannot, a roof example, you're going to get your roof replaced, how much is it going to cost? And how much does it ultimately cost in the end? Thank you for your time.
Chuck, just hang for a second. And first of all, thank you for volunteering on this board and not getting paid for it. That's actually a really good deal. Secondly, with your analogy, though, here's my problem. Your analogy is we haven't gotten on the roof yet. Okay, so we're $2.5 million over what we were supposed to be looking at before we get on the roof. Once we dig up that street, we may find all kinds of stuff. And I know you have a contingency in there, and I know you're gonna work really hard to get there. Again, I have no problem with the price. I just wish we were a little closer when we made our estimate so that we knew how much money to borrow. And I agree with you. Money in hand's great, but let's be realistic. We should have known how much, because we made a lot of promises. And that's where my heartache is. My heart burns based on the fact that we made promises to 2 other areas of this town that, frankly, unless, you know, and I'm glad Bob's out there trying to get money from the state. But again, these are things that should have happened pre-construction or pre-bid. We should have been out there looking for loans and looking for grants. And that's one of the problems over the last 3 years. We just haven't done that. And that's free money. And that makes all my heartburn go away. If $2.5 million comes in, my heartburn goes away. We can start talking to those other people about getting Bay Point and Marguerite and all that area done, because those are the people I got to answer to. But I really appreciate you coming up here and explaining it to me. I'm not a construction guy, so I know that there's going to be some things that pop up, and I hope, and I'm glad you're on it to stay on top of it for us. Thank you.
Well, and then finally,
Sure.
in that same respect, I believe once we have the money in hand, they are in the process, I understand, of getting these next projects underway and working on what they're going to be doing. And I believe the city is in the process of trying to see where they can get additional funds. It's changing. It's a changing thing, and I'm learning about this as well. And I'm trying to stay on top of it from a taxpayer, this standpoint. I'm not up there, I'm here, I'm volunteering my time, my expertise and all that. So, and I'm trying to learn about it and find out about it so that we can get the most bang for our buck.
Chuck, I appreciate that.
Sure, thank you.
Yes.
Helen Price, 13319 Boca Ciega Avenue in the beautiful city of Madeira Beach. If I'm putting a new roof on my house, I don't get the loan first and then find bids, especially, and I don't advertise how much of a loan I got. We got 2 bids, one over 12 million and one over 16 million. These people knew exactly how much we got for this project. Everyone thought 15 million was for the Crystal Isle, so I'm not surprised that we have bids as high as we did, right? Everybody knew it. So, number one, we shouldn't have shown our hands. And I'm assuming the professionals would have anticipated new gutters with the new roof, or at least taken a look up there and say, hey, is there more things that need to be done? A year ago, it was stated, quote, we did not have enough information. Well, why not? Why not? Because, in fact, this was rushed. This was rushed to get done right before an election, and I think everyone agreed it needed to be done. That's no problem. We all wanted this to be done. I had a new road. My project was $14 million to do the whole Boca Ciega Avenue Drive, 1st Street, 2nd, all along there, but my whole peninsula. And it was a $14 million project. We got a grant for half of it. It was $7 million. And that was just 3 or 4 years ago. Well, maybe 5 years ago. So I'm just a little concerned about, I'm just concerned that we only got 2 bids and that we tipped our hand on how much money we had. I think we shouldn't do that anymore. And if I would like to get your agreement that we won't do that again. Thank you.
John Hendricks, 569 Normandy Road. Couple of questions. One, well, it's not a question. I know I can't ask questions. I have a $400,000 line of credit on my house. Haven't used 1 penny of it. Didn't take any out, put it in the bank. So I think we kind of missed the boat last year when this loan was made rather than getting a construction loan. I know Walter says the interest paid on this loan and the interest being made on this loan is pretty much a wash. But he doesn't address the issue that I think in September we have $1 million balloon payment coming. So that's taking us down to 14 million before this project. I just think that was bad decision making. Now the commission was told this was a $7.5 million project. Obviously, somebody didn't have their facts straight before they gave this amount of money to the commission. I think this company, Deuel, is in talks with the city about managing this project. I don't see how we can let a company that has misforecast what the costs on this project are going to be, or I hope we're not turning right around and giving them a contract to oversee this. I thought that's what we just hired an engineer for. That, I don't know, isn't that part of the reason we hired an engineer? So I think there's been bad decisions all the way around. I'm really disappointed that Mayor Black and Commissioner Dothert aren't here when this is a special meeting. I wonder who called a special meeting only to have them not come. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I answer that question that came up? The main rationale for having a public works director with an engineering degree was so they could oversee the engineers on each one of the road projects. That way they can make sure that things are being done correctly and by our specifications. Eventually down the road, we might want to, if we keep spending money on road projects, we might want to maybe remold or reorganize the city to have a city engineering component. But that's, right at this point, we're not at that juncture. It's up to the chair.
Sure, come on.
So our engineer is overseeing the engineers that are overseeing the project? I don't understand that.
That's what I just explained to you.
I know.
Yes.
I know. So it's a little redundant. I think we need to look at who is going to oversee this project when we have an engineering company that just gave us a bid that was half again as much as what we were told it would be. I just don't think that was good business on their part. They should have found out what the costs were going to be. Certainly within reason. I understand there are cost overruns on things, but this isn't even close. And we haven't gotten a grant in 3 years now. Haven't even looked for grants. I appreciate you doing that, looking, but we got to do more of that. You're going to bury this city in ad valorem taxes.
Was there any other public comments that need to be made? Sure, go ahead.
Just one comment. When we set the millage last, and I want to be real clear on this in the interest of transparency, when we set the budget for this year, 2020, we factored the millage increase to handle or to budget for the 1 million payment that we would need to make going forward. So with the millage rate that was levied for this year is the same, it contains in there, we can keep the millage the same next year because we raised it so that we would have that million per year budgeted going forward. So there's nobody, we don't want to issue a panic to taxpayers at this point. This 7.8 million was budgeted for this year to get started. And going forward, we have the money in the millage the way it's set right now to make that 1 million payment each year going forward.
Now, I just have to ask the question, was anybody on this board, and I wish the other two were here, aware that that was $7.8 million to get started on Crystal Island? That was supposed to be the price of the project. I was never told by anyone that that was the starting number, okay? And then we were going to have to add more numbers to it. We were told that this project was going to fall somewhere between, Walt, sit down, please. I'm not done speaking. This project was going to be somewhere between $6.5 and $7 million complete, all in. That's what we were told. Now, if somebody else heard differently, I'd be willing to listen to you and maybe we can go back and look at a meeting. But that was not what we talked about when we first voted on this project. When we first voted on the project in order to push forward, we voted on this being the number that we're looking for. We knew there could be some things that gone on, but when it goes from $7.5 million to over $10 million, somebody dropped the ball here, okay? So that's all I really wanted to say on that. I keep hearing this, that's our starting number. That was never revealed to us. That was never revealed to any of us that was our starting number. That $15 million was supposed to encompass 3 projects. So maybe it was the starting number for the 3 projects, I'll give you that. But it wasn't the starting number for Crystal Island. That was all in. That was all in. That's what we were told from the jump, okay? I just wanted to make that clear.
Sure, go ahead.
That starting number was approved by this board, and it was recommended by the Budget Committee, which brought forth a recommendation to this board, and this board approved it.
Well, I'd like to hear the conversation where the word starting number were used. Okay? That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see that in the minutes somewhere where we all agreed, hey, that's our starting number for Crystal Island, because that was not said. Okay? I could be wrong. I mean, I'll be happy to go look at the tapes, and I'll be happy to sit here and admit that I was wrong. But I thought, and I think by the reaction of everybody else here, who is surprised by the 10% plus million to the $12 million cost, that we're a little surprised that it isn't $7.5 million. So nobody said anything about a starting number. I think we're just a little surprised by that number. So maybe you guys got one by me. Maybe I didn't hear that. But I would like somebody to research that, and let's see if we can find that, because I stay on top of these things pretty good. I don't think that was ever said. I just don't. Do you guys remember that? I mean, do you?
remember it.
You remember them saying it was a starting number?
That was going to cost Crystal Island 7.5.
That's what the cost was going to be, not a starting number. That was the cost.
And there was 2 other projects to be picked up afterwards.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate it.
Oh, okay, well, I'd like to say that I don't remember I remember the number of 7.5, okay, but it was not a definite number. It was an estimated number probably, and I say probably because I really don't know, but it was an estimated number based on the best of all possible scenarios. And
Commissioner,
that's the best
come
I can
on.
say, and that's right. That's the best I can say about it, Commissioner. But I certainly did believe, and I certainly do remember individuals coming to the speaker's platform and saying, "Oh, y'all got to be kidding! This is going to be $9-10 million." And I do remember that. Okay, and I certainly thought to myself, yeah, we're going to end up more than 7.5 for Crystal Island. Okay, I must have thought that in my mind, because I think if you wait any longer, it's going to be 10 million. If you wait till 2023, it's going to be 12 million. And I thought if we don't get started on it now and get a handle on it now, then we're just going back to the same old scenario that past commissions have done. We can't afford it, or we need to get more information. Well, when you get more information, especially if you try to go to Swift Mud or get grants, it's a 50-50. I don't ever think a grant is free money. Number one, I don't ever think it's free money. I think there's always some ifs, ands, and things that you have to give up or wait for. You have to wait maybe 5 years for it. Well, you have to consider, well, golly bum, if I'm waiting 5 years for the money or 3 years for the money, how much is that really going to cost me in 3 years? The rates are going to go up. So, but to answer your specific question, I know the figure of 7.5 was a figure that was stated, but it was not stated that was going to be the end of the Crystal Island, and the rest of the money was going to go toward the other projects.
I appreciate that. And I applaud you for being able to read between the lines a lot better than I was, because I'll be honest with you, I do agree it was an estimate, but it was an estimate for the completion of the project. It wasn't the estimate to get it started. And I mean, so my next question is very simple. Are you surprised by a $12.6 million low bid after we looked at $7.5 million?
I kind of am.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
But I think we have to go forward. Yes, I am.
Sure, come on.
Chuck Dillon once again. The 12.6 that everybody's referring to is the total package, and 2.1 is going to be coming from Pinellas County, that we are going to be getting that back. So the basic bid is 9.6. So it went from 7.5 to 9.6. Okay, so it went up $2 million. But basically, I went through all of that, and it could have been a lot more had Al not gone into various details about trying to get the best thing for the project. And granted, SWIP money, yes, it's very different now. You don't get nearly as much as you do anymore. But I'm firmly not believing in that, open graded concrete. So I mean, so that's a lot of what we keep talking about, the 12.6, but that's with the county's money in there. Our portion is 9.6, and I'm going to do my darndest to make sure it comes in around that. So that's what, and to get the most bang for the buck. And that's all I'm, going to try to say. And, the 12.6 is not really the money. It's what the total package is going to be, but we're going to get reimbursed with Pinellas County. So thank you.
And I'm going to close public comments at this time. Al, did you have anything else you wanted to say on this?
No, just to reiterate what Mr. Dillon had said. The city's going to see their portion is 9.6. We're going to do our very best to keep those prices where they are. There is the 10% contingency is over and above. Typically in our projects, we don't tap into that 10% contingency. We typically stay within the line items, which would be the 9.6. Pinellas County is giving us back reimbursement for all the work that's being done, the utility work, and then they're also giving us approximately $200,000 back to help manage their portion of the project. So they'll be writing a check to the city of Madeira Beach for approximately $200,000.
Thank you. Jamie, did you have anything you wanted to say on this?
No, I think we've got all pretty much covered.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Since the other two aren't here at this time, is there any way we can post this for a future date?
There's always a motion that you could receive to table, or you could make it yourself, but you'd have to turn over the gavel to one of the other two commissioners.
Actually, I'll make the motion. I make a motion to defer this decision on project 2013-80, award of the RFP and contract for Crystal Island Roadway improvement projects until we have a full board.
Well, do we have consensus? Or are people not wanting to table?
Well, it's
No, I
just,
want to move forward.
it's just the fact that we don't have the other two attendants here on the board. And I
That's
think
my
it's
question.
important
Do you
that
all
we-
want to wait, or or two of you want to go forward?
I want to go forward.
It takes 3 votes to approve anything.
Okay.
So you all have to vote unanimously to approve this, or you'll have to continue till all 5 are here.
I agree with the vice mayor. I think we should wait and do it in next meeting or have another special meeting after this. I think this is a pretty, pretty important decision. I think we need all 5 people's input into it. I don't think the 3 of us making this decision is a really good idea.
And I do believe that we've done our due diligence, and, but whatever,
Let's
yeah.
take a vote on the motion.
Okay. Claire?
Clerk,
Motion
call the
to
roll.
continue.
I don't think you need a second on a motion to table.
Commissioner Hodges is acting mayor. You're allowed to second motions if you'd like to second the motion.
I want the second motion.
Then you could call the roll, the city clerk, please.
Commissioner Andrews,
Yes.
Commissioner Hodges,
Yes?
Commissioner Weinstein,
No,
Just for the records,
Looking at the charter. In the charter in section 4.5C on voting, unless otherwise expressly provided by this charter, ordinances, resolutions, and other actions requiring a vote of the Board of Commissioners shall require 3 affirmative votes for passage. Since this is just a motion to continue, I think that affirmative vote of 2 to 1 would continue the hearing till all 5 are present, and then we can hear this item again.
can I just get a point of clarification? Does the commission want another special meeting scheduled, or do you want this to be brought up at the regularly called meeting of the 11th, I believe it is?
I would think that it, oh, can I make a comment? I would think that it should be another special meeting, because I think it's imperative that we get this moving along. I think that the 2 bids, I think that it needs to be as soon as possible. So, and I think that if we decide to, if the motion is, or if they decide to table it, I think we need to put a deadline on the special meeting when we're going to call a special meeting, or say within 5 days or whatever, if we can do that.
Oh, doesn't matter to me. Whatever you guys want to do. I'm free.
Well, if I may, I think because of the way the charter is written, we have to be in a regular meeting or a special meeting, and it's got to be agreed upon by the Board of Commissioners to call a special meeting. So if you all give me that dictate and you agree to it, then I'll do my best to get everybody here.
We could do it as a special meeting then. Do it as a special meeting.
Okay,
I agree to that.
okay, so I have all three of them. We'll work out the dates, so we can do that. And I'll have to follow up with the other, the mayor and Commissioner Douthert.
Okay,
So-
sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, so at this time, at 2:27, we're going to close this meeting, and we'll move forward to the next. Sure.
No.
Jerry, do you want that? Yeah, that's yours.